Chapter 4. The Duties of the Night Patrol. The apothecary was a cramped, dusty cavern that smelled of parched earth and things preserved past their natural end. Faded herb bundles dangled like sleeping bats from the rafters, their shadows dancing across jars where unnameable organs floated, pet in perpetual twilight, suspended in murky brine. A woman who seemed woven from the shop's very shadows tottered forward. Madame Spindlewarp's spectacles perched precariously on the tip of a long, thin nose, and her elbows, sharp beneath a shawl maked with old potion stains, poked at the air. "Professor Snape," she chirruped. She bustled behind the counter. "Put an honor, we've just had aconite delivered, roots thicker than a man's thumb. Moonstone that shines like a shard of winter sky powdered root of asphodel," I said. "Trivelfig essence, armadillo bile, a triple measure." I placed the order on the counter. "Veritaserum," she said. "Merlin's beard. Only a few true masters would even attempt such a do. I need to repeat myself," I said, tapping my fingers on the counter. She gave a jerky nod, ducking her head. And her quill began a frantic scratching against a scrap of parchment. The door to the Hog's head gave its usual groan as I pushed it open, the wood protesting like it resented anyone coming in. The smell hit me first: stale smoke, sour ale, and damp stone mixed together into something that made you want to breathe through your mouth. Weak sunlight struggled through the filthy windows, lighting up dust that floated in the air like ghosts of better times. Aberforth Dumbledore sat behind the bar where he always did, looking like a man who'd given up on everything years ago. He was wiping a glass with a rag so dirty it was making the glass worse. He looked like Albus, but wrong. The same blue eyes, but cold and hard, with none of the warmth. "Aberforth," I said. He grunted and set the glass down hard. "Snape, what brings you here? The dungeon's flood, or do you actually like my company?" "Your company is something I save for special occasions." I slid a silver coin across the bar. It looked to clean against the blackened wood. "And maybe some information, if you're feeling talkative." He poured the drink and pushed it toward me. "Whiskey's cheap. Talk isn't." I left the glass alone, I'm sure. "But you must see things here. Strange people coming and going. More than your usual drunks and lowlifes." His beard twitched. "Strange. You're looking at the strangest thing in this village right now, Snape. Don't you have a mirror at home?" I smiled, but there wasn't any humor in it. "Charming. But let's say your eyes work, as well as your mouth does. Hogsmeade's full of gossip. People talk. Unless you've suddenly gone blind." He leaned forward on his elbows, staring at me with those cold eyes. "People come, people go. They drink, they complain, they smell bad. Same as always. If you want a guest list, you'll be waiting until the rats in the walls start paying rent." "Rats," I said, letting my eyes drift toward the dark corners where things scurried in the shadows. "Fitting company for this establishment." His jaw went tight. "Watch it, Snape. Watching is exactly why I'm here. The headmaster cares about keeping the school safe, though I can't say much for his brother's business practices." That got to him. His eyes went narrow and his hands curled into fists on the counter. "This place isn't any of Albus's business or yours." I stood up, leaving both the coin and the untouched drink on the counter. I was almost at the door when he spoke up. "You tell my brother," he said, and I could hear the satisfaction in his voice, "that I don't need his games or your attitude to know trouble's coming. I sweep it out of here every night." The door groaned shut behind me, leaving the stink and silence to fester in peace. A damp, cloying fog pressed down upon the crooked rooftops of Knockturn Alley, muffling the world and turning the hissing gas lamps into bleary yellow eyes. Shadows clung to the doorways, deep and shifting. The iron bell of Borgin and Burke's gave a single, hollow clang as I stepped inside, a sound eaten by the oppressive silence. The shop was a mausoleum, cold enough to see one's breath, smelling damp stone and old malice. Glass-fronted cabinets loomed, their panes misted with time. Upon a bed of faded velvet, a set of withered hands twitched in a silent, sleeping dance. Mr. Borgin emerged from the back room, a long, pale smile stretching his face without ever warming his eyes. "Professor Snape, the establishment is honored. What brings you to my door this evening? Essence of Hellebore. Your entire stock," I said. His smile tightened, but he said nothing, slinking instead to a great black cabinet and unlocking, put with a key fashioned from a single yellowed claw. The vials of Hellebore clinked together as they dropped into my satchel. "Tea." As I turned to leave, Borgin's voice slithered through the gloom behind me. "Professor, one might wonder, is he truly dead?" I paused, my hand on the door handle, feeling his pale eyes boring into my back. "Who?" I asked, though we both knew. "The Dark Lord." Borgin's whisper cut through the cold air. "You were there that night, were you not? At Godric's Hollow." I turned. "The Dark Lord fell. The entire wizarding world knows this." But Borgin's smile widened. "Fell, yes, but dead. Such a powerful wizard, the most powerful of our age, reduced to nothing by a mere infant." He shook his head. "No, Professor, men like him do not simply vanish." The vials of Hellebore clinked in my satchel as I shifted. "What are you suggesting, Borgin? That perhaps reports of his death have been exaggerated?" His eyes gleamed in the lamplight. "I believe the Dark Lord still draws breath, Professor. A wizard of his power does not simply fade into nothing. No, he waits, gathering strength, choosing his moment to emerge when the world least expects it." "You speak in riddles, Borgin," I said. "The Dark Lord is gone. Every one of his followers scattered or imprisoned. Everyone." He leaned forward, his pale fingers drumming against the counter. "Strange, then, how certain items continue to find eager buyers. How whispers travel through Knockturn Alley of movements in the shadows, of signs and portents." "What items?" I asked. Borgins smiled. "Oh, nothing concrete, Professor. Merely rumors floating through the darker corners of our world. Items of particular significance changing hands. Old families liquidating collections. shadows they once guarded. Who? The question escaped before I could stop it. Ah, just whispers, you understand. Nothing I could verify. Though I thought perhaps you might know more, given your unique position. My position. Come now, Professor. We both know why the Dark Lord placed you so close to Dumbledore. Such valuable intelligence must flow through Hogwarts halls. He tilted his head. The question that intrigues me is, where do your true loyalties lie? With the old fool who trusts you, or with the true Lord? You dare question my allegiance. You who cowered behind your shop counter while others bled for the cause. I have walked through fire that would reduce you to Ashborgan. I have stared, put into the face of death itself, and emerged unchanged. Do not presume to understand the depths of sacrifice you could never fathom. Borgen's confident smile faltered. My loyalties run deeper than your shallow mind could comprehend. They are forged in pain you have never known, and sealed with choices that would break lesser men. I leaned back, question me again, and discover just how educational my displeasure can be. I turned without another word, my black robes billowing behind me like wings of shadow. The bell's hollow clank marked my departure as I stepped into the suffocating embrace of the fog. I disapparated with a sharp crack, materializing on the outskirts of Hogsmeade Village. The familiar cobbled streets lay quiet under the starlight, shop windows dark and shuttered for the night. My boots clicked against the stones as I made my way through the sleeping village, past the 3 broomsticks and the post office door. The path that led to Hogwarts. The castle's familiar silhouette rose against the star-scattered sky as I walked the winding road, its windows glowing like scattered jewels. My mind churned over Borgen's implications with each step, my eyes fixed on the tallest tower where a single light burned in the headmaster's office. The great oak doors of Hogwarts opened silently at my approach. My footsteps echoed through the empty corridors as I climbed the spiral staircase to Dumbledore's tower. The gargoyle stepped aside without a word, another indication that my arrival was expected. At the office door, I paused for the briefest moment, then knocked. "Come in, Severus Albus." I entered, closing the door behind me. "We need to discuss few matters." He looked up from his parchment. "The troll, yes. A most unfortunate breach of security, though I understand it was dealt with admirably by young Potter and his friends. Potter's recklessness is hardly the issue here." I moved to stand before his desk. "The question is how a 12-foot mountain troll found its way into this castle. Trolls don't simply wander in. Tell me, what do you think?" "I think someone let it in," I said. While everyone was panicking, I observed Professor Quirrell making his way toward the 3rd-floor corridor. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose slightly. "Quirinus, did he say why he was in the 3rd floor?" Not a clear answer. Panicked, and somehow ended. "Up there," I said. "He is up to something." "That's quite an accusation." Dumbledore leaned back in his chair, studying me. "You've never been particularly fond of Quirinus, have you? Even before tonight. My personal opinions are irrelevant, are they? You disagreed rather vocally when I appointed him to the position." Perhaps your suspicions are colored by that disappointment. I felt my jaw tighten. You think I'm fabricating lies because you rejected my recommendation for the defense post. Dumbledore shook his head. No, I think you're a man who sees enemies everywhere, sometimes where none exist. And I think you're dangerously naive about the people you trust. I stepped closer to the desk. Quirrell has changed since his return from Albania. The stuttering fool act may convince others, but something is different about him. Dumbledore was quiet for a long moment. I believe Professor Quirrell had some unfortunate encounters with vampires. The experience left him rather shaken. I do not trust him, I said. We can't exactly accuse without evidence. I hope you can see that, Dumbledore said. Borgin believes the Dark Lord still draws breaths. I said. He spoke of items changing hands. Whispers in Knockturn Alley of movements in the shadows, of signs and portents. He suspects those who served faithfully will find their loyalty rewarded sooner than the Ministry believes. Dump rose slowly, the weight of years suddenly visible in his movements. And he believes you remain among those faithful servants. He questioned where my true allegiances lie, with you or with the master who marked me. My lip curled. I left him, wondering. Good. Dumbledore moved to the window, staring into the darkness beyond. This confirms my deepest fears, Severus. Voldemort is out there, weakened, diminished, but alive. Someone aids his return, works to restore him, while the wizarding world celebrates its false peace. We must know who serves him and how close they are to success, I said. Turning back to me, Albus's eyes held their familiar weight of expectation. I must ask you to expand your observations, Severus. Patrol the darker corners more frequently. Listen for whispers that might lead us to his supporters. How delightful. More skulking through the sewers of our world, at your beck and call. Shall I also polish your shoes while I'm at it, Headmaster? I said. That won't be necessary, Severus, Dumbledore said, his voice carrying a note of finality. Though I do appreciate your enthusiasm. He paused, his blue eyes twinkling behind his half-moon spectacles. I am planning to use the mirror of Erised as the final trial. What are your thoughts on this? The mirror of Erised, I replied. The very same mirror you warned me to keep my distance from. That cursed thing has driven countless souls to madness, consumed by visions of what they can never possess. Dumbledore nodded slowly. Indeed, the more dangerous the object, the more suitable it becomes as our ultimate test. Understanding there was nothing more to discuss, I nodded curtly and turned to leave. That night, I set out on patrol. The castle always seemed half awake after dark, its stones releasing the warmth of the day in slow breaths. The wooden beams shifted and creaked as though they had secrets of their own, and the portraits dozed in their frames, muttering in their sleep. My footsteps rang against the flagstones, only to be hushed again by the long tapestries that stirred, as if some unseen hand had brushed past. The bloody Baron emerged from a suit of armor like smoke, his chains singing a familiar lullaby of metal. Against metal, evening Severus. The bloody Baron drifted from the wall, silver light clinging to the edge of his form. His voice carried the weight of centuries spent whispering in shadowed halls. The castle is restless tonight. I paused beneath a wavering torch, watching the light throw restless shapes across the stones. Filch and his cat swear someone is prowling the third floor after dark. The Baron inclined his head. You are not alone in that report. The fat lady told me only yesterday she heard footsteps near her frame. 3 times, she said. But when she called out, no one answered. Gave a sharp sniff. More than likely the work of 2 Weasley brats. Last week, I caught them loitering near the staircases after curfew. When I demanded an explanation, one had the gall to inform me he was conducting architectural research by attempting to befriend a gargoyle. I gave them a month's worth of polishing those same gargoyles. I went on. Let they conduct all the research they want, cloth in hand. The Baron's thin mouth twitched, then parted in a low, rattling sound like dry bones shifting. A laugh that held no warmth. We climbed the marble staircase together, my footsteps echoing solidly, while the Barons glided in silence beside them. A portrait of a shepherd gave a sudden snore, rolled over, and grumbled about sheep daring to count him for once. The 3rd floor feels different tonight, the Baron said as we reached the landing. The corridor stretched out before us, moonlight spilling in through tall windows and striping the flagstones with silver. Everything looked as it always did, suits of armor standing stiffly at attention, threadbare tapestries showing wizards locked in duels that never ended, the scuttle of a mouse darting for cover, and yet something was wrong. There, the Baron breathed, pointing a ghostly hand toward the forbidden corridor. The door. Severus. I followed his gaze. The heavy wooden door to the forbidden corridor stood open, just a finger's width, but enough to let absolute darkness seep into the moonlit hall. A low mirror, I murmured, examining the residue. Cast within the last hour, student or staff, hard to say. I drew my wand. Baron drifted closer to the door, his ectoplasm leaving no trace on the ancient stones. Shall I accompany you? Stay here. Keep watch. I edged forward, wand raised. The door groaned on its hinges, a low, complaining note that echoed through the circular chamber. Dust stirred beneath my boots, small motes floating in the cone of light from my wand. The vaulted ceiling above disappeared into darkness, swallowing the upper walls, leaving only the cold gleam of stone below. The 3-headed dog lay coiled across the floor, heads resting atop one another like sleeping boulders. Black fur slicked with damp, glinting where the wand light caught it. Each head rose and fell with the slow rhythm of breathing, nostrils flaring, whiskers twitching. Wet footprints marred the dust, heavy and adult-sized, leading to the trapdoor at the dog's feet. The wood was etched with runes that pulsed faintly, bin the light iron bindings curling over the edges. A crack split the seal. Someone had opened it. I knelt, fingertips brushing the iron. Warm. The chill of the dungeon clashed against it, and I could almost taste the heat, metal and magic, sharp on my tongue. A faint draft drifted upward, carrying the scent of damp fur and something older, raw and alive. A sound whispered beneath me, an inhale, a shift of weight too massive to be human. I froze, the eyes opened. 3 pairs, enormous, yellow, glimmering, like lanterns in the dark. The middle head lifted first, craning its neck to examine me. Drool fell in glistening strands onto the stone, sizzling slightly where it touched the faint warmth of the floor. Muscles rippled under fur, shoulders rolling as if testing their own strength. The other heads swayed, hypnotic, low guttural sounds vibrating in their throats. The middle head's gaze locked with mine, bright and intelligent. Every inch of its posture spelled intruder, danger. I exhaled slowly, lowering my wand just enough to show I wasn't attacking. Easy, I whispered. My boots pressed lightly into the dust, calculating each movement to avoid startling it. Go back to sleep. Tell left head tilted, nostrils quivering. For a single heartbeat, I imagined it might obey. Its massive paw twitched. Drool dripped again, spattering the floor. I could smell every strand of fur, every drop of saliva, every ancient muscle coiled and ready. Then my heel caught on a loose stone. The scrape rang sharp and bright, echoing through the chamber like a bell tolling doom. All 3 heads jerked upright simultaneously, eyes glinting like molten gold. The right head struck first, too fast to follow with the eye. A shadow of sleek black fur, jaws yawning wide, fangs flashing like knives in torchlight. I twisted sharply, trying to put distance between myself and the snapping mouth. But the chamber offered no mercy. The trapdoor underfoot, the slick dust, the scattered drool made footing treacherous. I lunged to the side, wand raised, hoping to evade the strike. But the dog's momentum was unstoppable. Massive jaws clamped onto my left. Die, iron strong and merciless. Wool shredded instantly, leather splintered beneath its teeth, and flesh followed with a sickening precision. Pain blooming through my nerves like molten metal poured over ice. Muscles coiled, fangs biting deeper, forcing me to stagger, nearly losing balance as the beast shook its head. Every sinew of its shoulder rolled under wet, matted fur, and the warm, pungent spray of saliva hit my skin, stinging and hot. I could feel the tremor of the dog's heartbeat against my leg, a rhythm as old and merciless as the earth itself. I bit down hard on the metallic taste of blood in my mouth, keeping my teeth clenched, refusing to scream. My wand hand trembled with effort, the wood slick against sweat as I scrambled, twisted, trying to wrench myself free, to slip past the jaws before they found bones to provide. I shouted. The spell struck the beast's flank, and red light flared across slick black fur, illuminating the coarse strands that stuck together with drool. The dog blinked once, golden eyes narrowing, but did not release me. If anything, its jaws clenched harder, fangs pressing against bone with slow, grinding insistence that made my muscles seize in shock. Blood poured into my boot, sloshing with each heartbeat. My robes clung to me, soaked through, the wet fabric cold against my skin in stark contrast to the heat radiating from my leg. The world wavered, edges shimmering, walls tilting, torchlight dancing across the dust in dizzying arcs. I spat, voice sharp and ragged. The spell struck true. The creature staggered, its massive shoulders pitching backward with a sound like a falling tree. Its grip loosened just enough, with a wet, tearing rip that seemed to echo through the chamber. I wrenched my leg free. Pain exploded along every nerve. I hit the stone floor hard, landing on one arm while my other pressed against my wound. My leg folded beneath me like broken clockwork, tendon and bone straining under the weight of the dog's bite. The creature watched me crawl toward the door with 3 pairs of drowsy eyes, already losing interest now that the immediate threat was neutralized. It settled back into the shadows below with a satisfied rumble, slammed the door behind me. My hands shook as I pressed against the ancient wood, drawing ragged breaths. Blood oozed through my fingers where I clutched the wounds, 3 deep punctures leaking steadily. Something inside protested sharply, muscle or tendon, torn beyond what a simple healing charm could fix. Baron, I rasped. Merlin's beard. Severus. What happened to silence? I snapped, straightening as best I could, leaning on the door. A flicker of movement caught my eye at the far end of the corridor. A figure, human-sized, moving with quick, too distant to see features clearly, but the gait hesitant, favoring one side. Shoulders hunched slightly forward when, in a rush, set every nerve in my body alert. The figure paused at the corner, as if sensing observation, then vanished, flowing, pour into the shadows like a whisper. Baron, follow. The ghost glided silently after the figure. The walk to the dungeons became a test of endurance. Each step sent jagged lightning through my injured leg. Twice I had to press against the cold stone wall, black spots dancing across my vision. The castle's familiar stone and torchlight blurred in pain and effort. When I reached the potion storeroom, the lock clicked open, releasing the rich, pungent smells of brewing concoctions and preserved specimens. I collapsed into a chair, finally allowing myself to examine the damage. My robes were shredded in 3 ragged tears, the blood stain dark and spreading in the lamplight. The Baron materialized beside me again. Sorry, Severus. I could not catch the intruder, a spell left behind. Yes, it clung to the air, twisting and shifting. I tried to follow, but it slowed me, tugged at me, held me in place. The Baron hovered closer. Severus, your leg, I am aware, I snapped, pressing my robes tighter against the wound. The warm stickiness of blood clung to my fingers. No need to hover, Baron. He drifted closer, a faint swirl of mist around him. This is beyond first aid. You should go to the hospital wing. Madame Pomfrey, I will not. I interrupted. Better to keep this under wraps. No gossip, no questions. His eyes widened, hollow orbs reflecting my wand light. But, Merlin, Severus, you cannot, do not lecture me, Baron, and turned toward my office. I have supplies. Enough to treat this for the night. Come morning, I will seek help from Professor Flitwick. I pulled a small satchel from a shelf, spilling out salves and flasks of disinfecting potion. I dabbed the wound, ignoring the sting of burning herbs and the slick heat of blood mixing with potion. I whispered minor binding charms over torn flesh, each subtle flick of the wand drawing threads of magic through the tissue, slowing bleeding and stiffening damaged muscle just enough to prevent collapse. The Baron hovered at the edge of the room. Quiet now. Are you not feeling any pain? I do feel pain, I muttered, pressing a clean bandage over the deepest puncture. I have essence of meticulous, I said, pointing to a small bottle in the shelf. I poured the small vial of dark liquid into a glass, swirling it slowly. Potion for pain. Bitter. I drank it, tasting iron and ash, and felt the burn slide down my throat, a dulling warmth spreading through my body. The Baron lingered for a moment longer, as if reluctant to leave. I moved to my bed, legs carefully arranged, wounds elevated slightly. The room was silent except for my shallow breaths and the faint hum of magic still lingering from the bandages. The potion took hold quickly, numbing the ache, easing the fire in my thigh.